You are now listening to the fastest show on iSports Radio. My name is Darrell Kinsey Jr. welcoming you to your lap of the extra mile for today, October 14th, 2021. And we are halfway to Halloween, and some drivers got some scary treats on Sunday, although some of them had tricks played on them instead. And to help me talk about it, of course, are my co-hosts, Christopher Lehman and Michael Ward. Fellas?
How's it going tonight?
What's going on, everybody? Chris, I missed you.
I missed you too.
We all missed Chris here, and it's glad to be back to a full three-man team this evening. Going to get into Formula One and NASCAR. Also got some NHRA news to get to, which also includes a bit of NASCAR. We'll talk about that. Also, update in the Rooster Tail Talks presents Saturday Night Hydroplane League Division 1, which a certain person on this show also has an involvement in. I'm not sure which one of those that is, but we'll talk about that here later on this evening. We're going to get into the show, and we're going to start with the Bank of America 400 at the Roval. And guys, we've had this race for a couple of years now. It has really jazzed up the fall Charlotte race, which used to just be a nothing burger of an event. It has now become must-see TV because every year there's a race, something wild happens.
Oh, definitely. It's honestly one of those races where you have to watch, honestly.
Yes.
I think I think we could call it the longest short track race because that's really how the tempers flare on this track.
They race this track like it's a short track.
They really do. It's the tightest road course they race all year. It's the most treacherous one they race all year. Unfortunately, we had nobody into... No, wait. I was about to say we didn't have anybody into Tum's Heartburn Turn 1 this year, but we did have somebody into Turn 1. Tum's no longer sponsors the turn, unfortunately. But Kevin Harvick ended up in those tires and ended up killing his chances to go on to the playoffs. But Michael, there was a reason Harvick ended up in those tires.
Yes, I do believe that reason is a very pissed off Mr. Chase Elliott. That and he honestly looked like he just locked up and bended into the wall, honestly.
Yeah, and that got started because a few laps prior, Kevin Harvick decided to just absolutely dump Chase Elliott as they were leaving the infield section. I can't remember if they touched earlier in the race.
Darrell, I honestly thought he made a mistake because there's been so many chances prior to this race that he could have done it. But then I realized that, this is the playoff. I think he wants to try to make it hit him where it hurts.
I mean, ever since what happened at Bristol, which was, it was, people will call it a racing deal. I'll just call it Bristol. I know Joe Logano likes to just call it that short track racing, but it's just Bristol. More than Martinsville, people get to that track and just lose their minds. And stuff happens. So Harvick has not forgotten and tried to pay back Chase Elliott. It didn't really work. I don't know if Chase was going to pay back Elliott as we get pay back Harvick there before Harvick put himself in the walls to get Chris involved in the conversation. At this point, they were both to the good of making it. So I don't think Chase Elliott was going to send Harvick like Harvick may have thought that he was going to.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I think at this point, Chase was just trying to make sure that he scored points and moved on. And to a degree, I think Harvick got into his own head. It's, in to put it in football terms, they always say, how sometimes a receiver will drop, won't catch the pass. And when you watch the replay, it's because they anticipate the hit or they're looking ahead. And I think that's what Harvick was doing, is he was watching his mirror. I think he was in his own head and he just missed the braking zone and locked him up and sent him into the wall. And I think if anything, that shows that the Chase has definitely earned respect as a racer in the garage, because if that was William Byron, for instance, I don't think Harvick would have missed that turn. But I think Chase, has earned the respect in the garage to that sense that, people kind of fear him to a degree.
Which is wild, because Chase, to me, Chase is very even keel. I think we've seen all his interviews. Even when he won the championship, his voice didn't have that much higher inflection than what we're used to. He's really mellow. But the few times, this is the first time I really heard him pissed on the radio. But he's a champion now. He knows how to race and win a championship. And as we made the joke to some people I was talking to with the hydroplanes, we were sitting there watching the race on Sunday. Chase kind of hit the intimidator button there and just kind of helped Harvick get into the wall just by getting into his head a little bit. And I didn't think we'd ever see that with Chase Elliott, but you're right, Chris. They are showing him some respect. I don't know what's going on with Harvick, to be honest.
I didn't think I'd see that. Harvick is not the one to get intimidated.
No, this has been a very un-Harvick season, and I think we've said that a lot this year, where that team has struggled.
The season to be over.
Yeah, I don't think Harvick. I don't think that in a normal situation he would have gotten, in his own head, but he dumped Chase and it backfired on him completely. And I think that's why he was in his own head, was because he made the mistake and he thought, I screwed up. Now he's going to do to me successfully what I failed to do to him.
Mm-hmm. And that's what he thought was coming to take a term from the National Football League. He heard footsteps behind him and tried to brace for it, and it ended up costing him a championship. But it's been a rough couple of seasons for Harvick. He probably would have had a good chance to win the championship last year, but he just had the worst round of 8 imaginable. Then he comes into this year, doesn't even make the round of 8 because of a problem of his own making. But we were talking about this during the break, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on it. NASCAR stepped in after this race, basically pulled Chase Elliott and Kevin Harvick into a phone call, and Bob Pockrass reported this, spoke for 6 minutes, and basically told them it's dead. And if anybody else retaliated, there would be severe consequences, and left it at that. Now, we were talking before the break, and Christopher made a good point. I don't think they make this phone call if both of them are in the playoffs still.
Or if it's not the playoffs at all.
Right.
I mean,
and I agree with that.
I can just see this carrying on into Martinsville.
And that's exactly why NASCAR stepped in. Because the last time we had this at Martinsville, Matt Kenseth absolutely destroyed Joey Logano and Logano's chances of winning the championship.
Best moment of that year, by the way.
Kenseth got suspended, and I did not care. It was hilarious. But unfortunately, NASCAR can't take the chance of a non-playoff driver affecting the playoffs in that manner. Kenseth was still in the championship hunt when he demoed Logano. But now it's Harvick, not in the championship, and nothing to lose. So what's to say that Harvick wouldn't go out this coming week at Texas and just annihilate Chase Elliott on lap 1? There's a lot that NASCAR had to deal with here, and they had to go in and say, look, we know you're mad, but you got to squash the beef. And that's exactly what they had to do.
Which is, like what I said, it's surprising that they went in and did this, because usually they don't do anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's the opposite of FIA. they'll come in and say, "Look, you can't do that anymore." But NASCAR
and Chris
stepped in.
Chris touched on that a little bit earlier because we came on here. We basically begged them to do something after what happened at Hungary and Silverstone. And the FIA just didn't step in. And NASCAR goes, look, stop it. It's over. So it's a rare situation, Chris, where NASCAR kind of acts where the FIA doesn't or didn't.
Yeah, and I think that, in both sense, I think NASCAR is trying to put on a good show for the championship and make sure that at the end there aren't outside influences. And I think to a degree the FIA wanted to make the championship interesting because, as we all know, after a plethora of races this year, we said Mercedes is screwed. And, obviously there were a couple of races with some questionable events that happened. It's probably the nicest way I could put it. And now suddenly we have a very interesting championship and in the Formula One world. And I think NASCAR is trying to protect the integrity of the playoffs by calling Harvick and Chase Elliott and their teams respectively into the virtual hauler, so to speak. So I think it was a good move on NASCAR's part. I applaud them for squashing the beef. But if Chase Elliott wins, I'm a Chase fan, but I really do not want to hear Mickey Mouse Championship ever again.
No. He won that championship fair and square. But as far as things are going into these next 4 races with the round of 8, these playoff guys, you've got to be careful with who you race around, because even if the gauntlet has been put down by NASCAR, I don't think Kevin Harvick cares. I'm just going to throw it out there. I think if he has a chance to ruin Chase's chance of repeating, I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to do it anyway.
I mean, if he doesn't care about the punishment, and he's at that point where it's like, I don't care about the punishment, or he's retiring or whatever, I think he honestly wouldn't care either.
So the other guys in the playoffs are also going to have to be careful. Don't piss anybody off, because if somebody's going to pay you back, now's going to be a great time to do it. And if you pissed off anybody else during the season as a non-playoff driver, you may find those holes a little bit tighter than you expect when you come up to pass them. So there's going to be a lot of repayment going on in these next 3 races, especially when we get to Martinsville. And one of the best decisions they made was taking Martinsville and putting it as the penultimate race of the season, because that race is going to be must-watch TV, and I cannot wait till we get there.
The only thing that would make a better championship or penultimate race is if they put them in SRX cars on Martinsville.
Oh, gosh. That would be interesting. I also still kind of want Daytona to be the season finale, but put it on the road course as a compromise. Because I think Daytona as a championship race would be cool.
I think they should rotate it around so that way it's not one discipline.
I'm fine with it being rotated.
I think they could pick out probably 3 or 4 courses and just have it rotate. Like 1 year, it not necessarily Atlanta, but like an intermediate, a short track, a road course. But at the same time, I can see why people wouldn't want a road course. It's a very specialized, but at the same time, I mean, we're running so many road courses now that to be a champion, you need to be a good road course racer.
And speaking of that, a road course racers, Kyle Larson, who has just come back and decided that he can win at pretty much every racetrack, picks up the win at the Roval. This guy's been the prohibitive favorite to win the championship, I think, since he first won earlier this year. He has really lit this sport on fire this year. Going into this round of 8, Larson basically just has to finish the first race and be locked in on a Truex beat, which is ironic given that during the race, they fell out because they had to change an alternator belt. And to do that, to come back and win, that's a championship defining moment.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And as I look at it and going forward and looking back at how how Kyle Larson got to this ride, I won't call it redemption, because with what he did on the track is not going to have a redemption for how he ended up off track to begin with. He's going to have to show that in other ways. But it is a resurgence. And this is the best way, to be honest, for people to forget about that is to win. Because we say it in every sport. Winning cures everything when you have bad publicity. And Larson's done a lot of winning this year. And he might win the championship. What I'm afraid of, unfortunately, is a similar situation to what's happened to Brandon Brown. Now, Christopher, you weren't here last week. We didn't touch on this. The chance that we're not going to repeat, and Michelle Tafoya tried to clean it up. Thank goodness she did for TV by saying, "Let's go, Brandon," has unfortunately become a dog whistle for certain individuals of a certain political persuasion. My fear is that Larson winning this championship is going to be the same thing, where people of a certain belief structure are going to try to hold up his accomplishments to further their agendas. That's the one thing I'm afraid of. That doesn't mean I don't want Larson to win the championship. If he's good enough, man, go out there and do it. I'm just concerned about what the outcome is going to be in those off-the-track areas where we know NASCAR struggles and still struggles to this day.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And I even texted you guys. It was like at 7:05 this morning, and I was like, I want Talladega to lose both their dates next year. Like I saw a video this morning, and at 5 after 7, I was texting you guys angry, pissed off text messages. And it was because I saw some Tucker Carlson thing where he's going on and on about Brandon, and it was just ridiculous. And I think that if it was my own, if NASCAR was mine, I'm so petty that I would tell Talladega, like, you lost both your dates. Like, that's ridiculous. And it's become, Talladega, I hope all those fans are proud that they've made NASCAR a national mockery. And it's just absolutely despicable what they did, in my opinion, and how they've turned it into a battle cry. And now I'm seeing merchandise for sale that says "Let's Go Brandon," and then below it says J or FJB. It's just sickening, this whole thing. And I think at the center of it all, is Brandon, who, one of the biggest moments probably of his life, and it's just completely overrun. And regardless of what his political affiliation is, he doesn't deserve his win to go down this way.
Yeah. This man did not deserve what his first win has turned into. And he played it off well on Twitter. And maybe he doesn't pay attention to the politics. Or worst case scenario, he agrees with it. But that's a conversation we can have for another day. But guy's first win is getting tarnished. And I don't want Larson's first championship to get tarnished in the same way. Because he doesn't deserve it. Dude went through enough. He got punished for it. He lost his ride, lost his sponsors, damn near lost his career. So he's come back from what we know. He stayed out of trouble. He's winning a whole bunch of races, and I hope Larson seals the deal. I really do. I'm just worried about what happens after he does, because a lot of people have tried to use this as some sort of slight towards Bubba Wallace, and I don't get it, but whatever. We can get off that topic and talk about something much more cheery, and that would be what's going on with the next-gen car. They had a 2-day test at Charlotte at the Roval. It was fun getting to see all those cars out there. Some of the teams really went all out with their testing schemes. Some teams not so much, but my main takeaway from the test was that these cars are going to do really good on road courses, but the steering is still giving them issues, and that's going to make these cars a lot tougher to drive. I hope they fix the issues so it doesn't cause a problem, but Cup cars, tough to drive, I'm okay with that, even with the reduced horsepower.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think that anytime you can put the skill of it more in the driver's hands than on the engineering team, I think it's going to result in good racing. And another thing that I'm kind of excited about is seeing maybe some of our fan favorites who can drive a car wide open, but maybe they're not the greatest when it comes to really needing to actually wheel the car. A car that's fighting you all the time. We know that Jimmy had a lot of trouble coming into these cars where you just hold it wide open the whole time. And, it was a painful end to his career. And I think this might be a car that if Jimmy was still around, he'd probably find some success in. And it'll be interesting to see what drivers trend upward and start doing really well, and also on the other side to see if some of the fan favorites don't fare out so well when their talent is really put to the test.
Corey LaJoie stated that during his test session that he really feels like the mid-pack teams are going to be a lot more competitive going into next year with this new car, which I'm a Bubba Wallace fan, 2311 Racing. That's a mid-pack team. That makes me feel good that car is going to be competitive and help, with Bubba's development into a top-tier driver. But I'm excited to see how this car runs. Cannot wait until we get it at Daytona next year. The Clash is just going to be a demo derby, and you're not going to be able to take away anything from that, to be honest. But when they get to Daytona, when they start getting into the intermediates, the 550s, which is going to be the real test of this car, by the way, it's going to be interesting to see. I think with the reduced downforce, even with the 550 horsepower, they're not going to be full throttle. It's not just a spoiler that creates the downforce. Everyone just goes, oh, they have the 8-inch spoiler. It's going to be full throttle again. These cars aren't sealed off anymore. They're going to be lifted up off the ground. We've already seen that. You can see that in testing. The noses aren't sunk to the ground like they used to be. They're not taping up the grill anymore because the air is actually going through the grill now. So that's even more downforce that's been taken away. There's a lot of stuff you can't do underneath the car anymore because that's completely sealed, which is going to take away some aerodynamic advantages. And you have to keep the car completely symmetrical, which takes away the side force when they would have these cars slanted over to I believe it was to the left that they had it. A lot of the downforce that they had that is creating the full throttle with 550 horsepower is going to be gone next year. So even though they've got the 8-inch spoiler, which they've been testing, by the way, I don't want to say that it's going to be full throttle, no one able to pass all the time. We'll see what happens next year when they get these bigger tires and bigger brakes and everything on track in 2021. Or 2022, sorry.
I think the Clash might end up being a bit of a snooze fest, to be honest. I think there's going to be a lot of figuring out this new car. There's going to be some nerves, and maybe at least the beginning, the opening, couple dozen laps or so might be a lot of let's figure out how this car actually works in a real live race scenario. But I think it'll be really fun. Give it, maybe coming into early May or something when these teams have some time to tweak their cars in the shops and stuff. I think I'm really hoping that this package delivers what NASCAR is hoping that it does, which is better racing.
And we all want to see better racing because, well, one, people on Twitter will chill out, so we can actually talk about something at the end of the race and then how bad the package sucks. And two,
I think they're still going to complain that the package sucks, even if the car does well.
Without a doubt.
Sorry. Just got to be honest with you there.
So we'll see how this new car runs next year. But before we go, today is October 14th, and I just saw on Twitter that this is the weekend of an unfortunate event. 10 years ago this weekend, there was the IndyCar, then the IZOD IndyCar Series, now the NTT Data IndyCar Series championship race at Las Vegas. Dan Weldon started at the rear, was going for the $5 million bonus to win from the rear of that field. We had 34 cars in the event. Unfortunately, a massive accident in turn 1 and 2 obliterated most of the field and took Dan Weldon from us all. To this day, not a single person, I think, has had anything nice to say about that race or the people that decided to run it. And today will not continue to be one of those days. I think someone should have went to jail for what happened. There was no reason at all to put that many cars on that short of a racetrack. As fast as these Indy cars run and as dangerous as the wrecks were in this era of IndyCar oval racing, there's no reason that should have happened, and someone should have eaten a negligent homicide charge for that. And I will believe that for the rest of my life. Dan Weldon was taken away from us far too soon. We can all say that. There's no one that has had a bad word to say about him in the years since. His sons are now signed with Andretti's karting program, and hopefully we'll see them win a couple of Indy 500s as well. But that is in the future. And this weekend, we want to continue to pass on our condolences to the entire Weldon family as they, don't want to say celebrate, but they will definitely take time to mourn on, fellas, a death that should not have happened. That's the only way I can put it.
He will be missed. He will definitely be missed.
Well, with that, we're going to go to break. When we come back, we're going to get into some more news and get you review what happened in Formula One. And then get you ready with nearest the win for this weekend for NASCAR heading out to Texas. We'll be right back here on the Extra Mile on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Los Great, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy white tea. They're coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, everybody? This is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunder Spikes? Then I have the show for you. Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we're back here in the Extra Mile for IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We're going to get back into the conversation here. But before we do, I just want to give a quick update on what happened with Saturday Night Hydroplane League. We just had our Division 1 race on Saturday, and Eddie Canfouche in the U1 Cheerios picked up the win. So congratulations to Eddie. Check out Saturday Night Hydroplane League on UHL Hydroplanes on Facebook, where you can hear myself call some of the fastest virtual hydroplane racers in the world take on some of the toughest virtual courses out on the water. We race at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, although this upcoming week will be in Miami. It'll be at 7 o'clock, the race there for Division 2. Division 1 will start at 8 p.m., so we will go on to the air at 6:30 and 7 o'clock, respectively. Check it out. Starting next week, Saturday Night Hydroplane League, Division 2, and Rooster Tail Talks presents SNHL Division 1 action is back for the 2021-2022 season. So we've got some news that we'll come back to. We're going to get into Formula One here for a little bit with some news about Max Verstappen's car. They're going to get a new chassis.
Well,
Chris was telling us in the break, or possibly do a new chassis, because I just saw they had a filming day today, which is basically how all the teams are getting around the testing regulations.
I think they should get a new chassis because Hamilton, like I said, Mercedes is still like competitive. Also, Hamilton did just get a whole new engine. So I still think they need to keep some sort of competitive edge over Mercedes.
Yeah, but at this
possible.
Horner. So Horner said today, don't rule out Verstappen taking another engine penalty. They said that it's going to come.
Honestly, no.
It's going to come down to the wire, and they can't.
It's too close.
And they want another engine.
We don't have too many rounds left for them to do that.
I don't think you can take that chance, man. I mean, you're coming in. Where are you going to take it? Like the next two races, Coda and Mexico, those are real good Mercedes tracks. Hamilton could end up winning those races if Mercedes doesn't shoot itself in the foot again, which we'll get into.
So this is what
the only place I can see them doing that is Saudi Arabia. That's legit the only place I can see them doing that.
Yeah, we don't know how that track's going to pass.
So basically what Marco said today was Mercedes was simply too superior in Turkey. In wet conditions, Max Verstappen should normally have had no problem beating Bottas, but in Istanbul, he had no chance to keep up with him. Especially with empty tanks, they are vastly superior to us. That was not ideal in Istanbul. Max kept complaining about understeer, and we just couldn't get rid of that. We have to work day and night. We'll keep fighting. It's also positive how relaxed Max is dealing with the current situation, blah, 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 but said that he might have a new chassis in Austin.
I mean, just because you have a new chassis doesn't mean it's going to work. See what happened with Haas.
Well,
remember, they developed a car and went backwards a few years ago.
What I want to say is that the conditions in Turkey were just insane, honestly.
They weren't weird. Good.
Because you had a dry track, but you couldn't switch on to super sauce.
Yeah,
it was everybody had a hard time. Lewis Hamilton even had a hard time.
I still think that at the end of the day, they made the right call pulling him in for tires.
I know they made the right call, but I think they waited too late to do it.
In the moment, you can look back on hindsight and see Ocon's tires and say he could have made it. But when he's on the track, there's still always that chance that something happens. He loses grip, he slides out, and a retirement is something you can't afford right now.
Yeah, the first one of these guys that retires is going to lose his championship. Well, can't say that because Verstappen's already retired. But at this stage, you can't risk it. Especially with Mercedes. They're finally starting to wake up again. You're coming into two really good Mercedes tracks with United States and Mexico. If they don't trip over the strategy, Hamilton probably wins these races. You get it back at Brazil with Verstappen, I think. I think that car is going to suit the Red Bull better. Qatar and Saudi Arabia are toss-ups, and I'll say Abu Dhabi is also a toss-up because we haven't had a championship race there in forever. So
changing the engine it's risky. I don't think they should risk that.
I think the last person that changes the engine is going to lose the championship. I don't think you can change again.
They have 3 right now that are usable, but they just said that they can't afford to retire due to durability issues.
And also, honestly, at this point, this is when the Mercedes really kicks in the development game, because remember, they're still developing their car.
Yeah,
both Red Bull and Mercedes are.
Well, Horner's saying that he's worried about they're willing to take a penalty for durability. Says they must be seeing something in that engine behind the scenes that they're not telling people.
there's something they don't like. There's definitely something that they're seeing in the telemetry that's like, this thing is going to break if we don't do something.
My guess is that they're just running them so hard. You know, they are pushing these things to the breaking point, and it's causing durability issues.
Well, this is the hardest. This is the hardest any of these teams have had to push in years, so I completely understand that.
Yep.
If they're going to take that engine penalty, they've got to take it, I think, at COTA. You at least have that long... Well, no, COTA's not a good track for passing, other than really that long backstretch. None of these tracks are that good for passing.
Actually, none of these tracks are like good to start in the back end, honestly.
That's why I'm saying I don't think they can do it. I mean, they can say it all they want, but...
I mean, COTA...
I mean, I'm looking at this...
They've got that straight line speed.
Let's all be honest. Max is kind of reckless. So if you put him in the back and there's a championship fight, you know.
I mean, Max could on lap one just get a launch down that back stretch. You're right, Chris, and make up a lot of spots. I mean, the Haas's, you'll get like 10 feet off the starting line, and then it's just getting through everybody else. But, man, I don't know. I mean, Mexico has a airport runway for a front stretch, so you could make up a lot of spots there if you make a good start. But Brazil, not going to happen. I have no idea how Qatar or Saudi Arabia are going to race. And then Abu Dhabi, which has never been good for passing. You definitely can't take it there. So they've got to take it in one of these next 6. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. Next 5, sorry. But none of them are that good for passing that I would risk it.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be Horner just blowing smoke, too.
I think it is, too. That. I mean, they're in a desperate situation if they're actually considering it.
It's too late in the game to just start doing this willy-nilly.
Yeah. But if there really is durability issues, then, I mean, you do have... Rather than taking a retirement, you do have to take that penalty and get a new engine.
Yeah.
That the only thing worse than taking the penalty is a retirement.
I think they got to eat it at COTA then. Just bring a whole new chassis and a whole new car. Just get it out the way there. Because you can't... I don't think you can take it to Mexico or Brazil or, God forbid, Qatar. Because Brazil's not good for passing. Just look at the layout. And we've seen the races there. You know, there's not a lot of good passing zones there other than going through, I think it's turn 4. They're in sector 1.
Turn 1 might not be bad if you have, like, a these drag.
Yeah, but you need a lot of overspeed to get that done.
Yeah. So, I don't know, man. That just seems like a risk.
I'll agree with you, Chris. I think he's blowing smoke, but if it's really that bad, if I'm Mercedes, I'm seizing on this any way I can to try and push those guys into a failure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This is a heavyweight fight that is going to come down to Abu Dhabi, and that's a great way to send out the turbo hybrid era, but
so if you had to guess right now, let's throw predictions out there or what have you. Who goes into the championship race with more points, and what do you think the spread is? Like 1 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15. What do you guys think?
It's going to be 1 to 5. These two are too good.
1 to 5 at least.
So who do you think goes in with more points?
Looking at the way the races are shaking out, I'm going to say Hamilton, but I'm very shaky. I don't know about Mercedes' strategy calls right now. I feel like they have another oopsie in them, which is not good, by the way. But I just think their car is so fast right now that it's not going to be as easy as it was for Red Bull earlier this season to just run away from them. And we already saw that in Turkey. They're back. The Black Panther Mercedes are back. So it's going to be a fight to the end of this year. But I just don't know how the strategy call is going to play out, and that could doom Mercedes at the end of this. But
well, speaking of strategy calls, you guys want to talk about what went down at Turkey?
Yeah, we can get into that. Just Michael, who do you think's going to go in with the championship lead?
Honestly, it's really hard to say because Mercedes, they have the car and the pace, but the strategy calls this year, they've been really questionable. Red Bull, if they could just stay consistent, I think they have a shot. Mm-hmm. But as of right now, I still say it's advantage Mercedes. And another thing that's still a factor is, well, you can say there's a factor. Well, one of the things I know you're going to say is a factor. McLaren and Ferrari could still somewhat be a factor.
Yeah, and as fast as McLaren is right now, that's got to worry Red Bull more than Mercedes, because now if you don't get a good start, it's not like, okay, well, you're second. You could be fourth or fifth or sixth, or even as far as seventh, because Ferrari and McLaren are not going away.
Straight line speed. Ferrari might not have the straight line speed, but you got to admit that car is still solid.
Yeah, it's a lot more solid than it's been in fewer years or in recent years.
So if they get ahead, yeah, maybe if it's a Ferrari, they both can pass it. But if it's a McLaren, they're gonna have problems.
McLaren had a bad.
The whole Russian Grand Prix.
McLaren did not look good 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I think that's a blip more than a trend. That was just a weird race, and it just caught out McLaren Mercedes. They finished, what is that, 7th and 13th? I don't think that continues the rest of the season. I think they're much better than that. Ferrari was 4th and 8th. I think they're a little bit better than that.
Pretty decent chunk of that race too, Ferrari.
Yeah, they're
until they also decided to call Leclerc in 2
and that's the thing. Ferrari starting to lead races again. They were not in this conversation earlier this year.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of teams in the mix to play spoiler, and whoever gets stuck behind them is going to be in trouble. And if Mercedes is back to locking out the front row, that's going to put Verstappen into danger, even though Verstappen's a really good starter.
Yeah, very good starter.
That could help him, but I don't know. I really don't know.
In my opinion, Verstappen, he's really good. He's a really punchy racer. My thing is that he can honestly be a little reckless.
And I think that might catch him out here.
Yeah,
he's never won one of these before, and Hamilton's won 7.
If it comes down to, we're coming into the closing laps and you have a real wheel-to-wheel battle, I think I'm picking Verstappen. I think he's just younger, more aggressive, and I think that when it comes to wheel-to-wheel combat, I think he's probably the best, in the game right now.
Wheel-to-wheel, yeah, definitely. Although Hamilton used to be really great at overtaking, but he kind of lost his flair because he's never had to overtake anymore.
I mean, we all know that F1's been really showing that video of him and Perez. When he sent Perez over, out of the track limits.
Yeah, but he's always done that.
Yeah, but I think it showed a little bit of weakness out of him, though. He gave the space, but then he didn't. But Perez came back and he just took that from him. Yeah. And then it was his for the rest of the race. I don't think Hamilton ended up getting around him, and it was kind of I think that was almost like a gut punch to Hamilton, like I don't know, almost like in his own head type of situation.
Strategy call, because when he said he was fine, I really had to disagree, because you could make it onto the end like you suggested, Chris. But looking at like you said, looking at Ocon's tires, those things could have blown at any time. So was it really the best call for Mercedes to call him in? Yes, because you still got a championship. I know Hamilton's probably thinking winning or getting the most points possible, but I think Mercedes was thinking about playing it safe.
And if we don't know what happens if he stays out, maybe by pulling him into the pits, he did get the most points possible. Because maybe if he didn't, maybe his tires do blow, or maybe he loses traction going into a corner and they don't blow, but he slides off and goes into the wall and retires.
Yeah, like Leclerc was dealing with.
Yeah, I think that Mercedes 100% made the right call, and I understand Hamilton's frustration, but I hope at least he issues some sort of
they were playing the long game
statement, like I hope he at least went to his team privately and said, I understand what you're doing and I'm sorry.
They've probably talked about it since then, and we'll probably hear about it next week when they head out to the race in Coda. Is when they'll tell us.
Maybe they walk him over and show him the tires that came off Ocon's and say, hey, look, this is what you would have had, maybe worse, because you are running better.
You're trying to chase down people.
So your tires would have been worse.
Ocon was just out there just kind of trying to lap and survive, honestly. Hamilton was trying to chase them down.
I think they knew that they were going to try to spread it out, and I think he just took it easier, thinking like, we're going to do a no-stop strategy, or at least go as long as we can. And I think he was a little bit easier, whereas maybe Hamilton and Mercedes didn't really make that call, so he might have ran a little harder earlier on.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of fell into their lap where they were like, we're going to no-stop it. But okay, actually.
Let's be honest, Mercedes has had a history of that car just not being really easy on tires.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can see by the conversation we're having with this, there's going to be a lot of talk in the next 2 weeks about who's really going to win the Formula One championship. And I think from the three of us, that's something we've wanted for the past 8 years.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Like, I'm glad we're talking about who's going to win the championship rather than, it's Hamilton, done deal. All right, see you next year.
I think the person we need to keep our eyes on for playing spoiler, or the biggest factor in Hamilton winning this or not, is none other than his teammate Bottas, who has, as I said earlier, scored the most points of anybody since the announcement he's going to Alfa Romeo.
Right.
Yep. Bottas has something to prove.
And will he follow team orders blindly in these coming weeks?
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
Because if he's
leaving teams, why should he care?
And if he's in the lead and Lewis is right behind him and Max is third, I don't think Bottas gives up first place to him anymore. I don't think he does. I think Bottas knows this is his last chance to really pad his win totals, and I don't think he's going to give in to team orders.
Yeah, if we get a Valtteri, it's James at Coda. I don't think it's going to go the same way it went a few years ago in Russia.
You're going to get responded with fell silence.
Yep, I didn't hear you. Sorry.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. Radio cut out.
Yep. If you hear box, 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 he's not coming in.
So before we go, go ahead, Michael. Finish up, and then we'll go to nearest the win.
One thing I wanted to ask you guys: I want to say a big rumor. Well, it's not really a rumor. Apparently, Andretti Autosport is trying to buy Sauber F1 team. What do you guys think about that?
That'd be cool if they did it. And it also gets an easy F1 seat for Colton Herta.
Because he's trying to buy 80% of Sauber. And apparently Colton Herta's sponsor, I forgot their name, is also involved with those talks. So I think that that's what they're trying to go for, and that my only problem with that is like, where does that leave Alfa Romeo and like Ferrari or anything like that? Because I know they definitely have a say in those talks, and also Andretti Autosport is mostly like not a family, but a Honda type of team. So I don't know if that could have an effect on it. But it's just something to watch, honestly.
This could also be a ploy by Red Bull Honda, because they're still going to be using Honda engines. They're just bashed Red Bull. But this might be a ploy for them to get an extra team. So
it could be. But yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know that that's a talk that's happening in the background leading up to COTA. So yeah, that's something to catch up to watch when we come into COTA this upcoming weekend or next upcoming weekend.
I'm sure that kind of like there was some F1 drivers at the Indy 500. I'm sure there's going to be the reverse. I think there'll be some people in the IndyCar industry, hanging out down in Austin, Texas this weekend.
Well, if we hear about any announcements, more than likely we'll know what's coming.
Yep.
Well, fellas, it's time to get on out of here. Time to make our picks for nearest the win. We've only got NASCAR this week, as heading into Texas, first round of the round of 8. Who you guys got? I'm going to take, going into this weekend, I think I'll take Kyle Larson to double up. Actually, I think I may have I picked Chase. So I'm going to take Kyle Larson to double up and lock himself into the round of 4. Christopher, Mike, who you got?
Chris is married.
Where are we at again? Vegas?
Texas, I think.
Is it Vegas?
Texas. Yeah, Vegas, where are we? Yeah. Texas. Oh, Texas sucks.
Let me make sure we're at Texas. Yeah, we're at Texas.
Let's see. Texas. I don't know, Michael. You pick.
I'm gonna go Truex Jr.
I think I want.
You can make it that one throwaway race.
No, I'm just thinking. I think I want to go with I think I want somebody who's a non-playoff driver. To be honest with you guys, I think someone's going to play spoiler.
Well, you got Harvick sitting out there.
I think
with Haas this year, I don't know if that's a good pick.
Yeah, I don't know.
Then again, I was the one that told you not to pick Ricardo at Monza.
I mean, Harvick is. I mean, I know he's won there at least a couple times, but you know what? I'm gonna go with Denny. I think Denny does it.
All right.
Yep, Denny. And I'm not thrilled about it.
Damn.
Michael, who you got? I didn't hear who you picked.
Oh, you didn't. I went Truex Jr.
Oh yeah. Okay, so you got Truex. So that'll wrap it up. There's no Frozen Talks with AJ here. That'll be tomorrow. So this is going to wrap it up for this evening's broadcast here at iSports Radio. But hey, if you like what you heard, make sure you give a like to the iSports Radio social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Make sure you like the Twitter page for the show, Extra Mile IESR. And if you missed any episode of any iSports Radio show, it can be heard wherever you listen to your podcast. Christopher is at Fiji Sims. Michael's at Michael_Ward25. And I am at DK Junior 12 if you want to talk to us on the Twitter. So we will be back next week. It's going to be an awesome week of racing, and I hope everyone out there enjoys it. For Michael and Christopher, I'm Daryl. This has been The Extra Mile, and we will see you at the next green flag. Good night, everybody.